Hello everybody and welcome back to FantasyFootballFix.com. My name's FPL Phillips and this is your 22-23 content for the FPL season continued, or part 2, as we come back with the unlimited transfers draft and a very special edition of Eddie versus the algorithm, where if you've been following along you'll well know that the algorithm computer generated unlimited transfers team is going to be going up against my own Game Week 17 draft for this video. So we'll see how the machine is doing against the man, and you can judge down below in the comments at the end of it whether you think the computer-generated team is better than the draft that I've been able to put together and what my current team is looking like ahead of Game Week 17. FPL's got some living up to do with how the World Cup finished, so we've got to get into it and hope for a quick and fast start back with some exciting English football to have a look at. So let's get into it, shall we, and judge how the computer draft is looking for this unlimited transfers team. And kicking things off in goal for the algorithm is going to be a surprising pick. Jordan Pickford is not one that I have seen in a lot of teams as I've been doing my research for this video. And I immediately jumped to the second choice keeper, the keeper that is on the bench, who I'm going to reveal now just for the relevancy that it brings. And that is Leno. So the keeper combination of Pickford and Leno is what the algorithm has gone with. And luckily I knew I could use the fixture rotation planner over at Fantasy Football Fix to have a look. Maybe there's something I'm missing here, because Everton themselves are only ranked 12th in terms of defensive fixture difficulty over Game Week 17 to Game Week 23 in that period. So maybe if you rotate Pickford with Leno, maybe I'm missing a trick and there is something there to be had. Wolves against home is a pretty good fixture for Everton, but then they face Manchester City, which is the first game you'd start Leno in. You've got Southampton at home in that one. Then you've got the double game week for Fulham as well. And after that, including the combination, it's Southampton at home for Everton, West Ham United for Everton. Then you've got Arsenal, Pickford again in that one. And then you're starting Leno once more in Game Week 23 against Nottingham Forest at home. So it looks like a pretty decent set of fixtures. Arsenal, you'd say, is the main challenge in Game Week 22. You'd not ideally like to have that when you're rotating keepers anyway, and you're spending that little bit extra to get the rotation in. Rotating keepers is always something that's come back to bite me in the you-know-what, as well as I bench keepers who seem to get more points than the one I start in the more favourable fixture. So it's not something I like to do personally, but the algorithm clearly is backing it. And if you want to compare some other goalkeeper rotation plans up until these new 3 games that we got, then you can head over to Fantasy Football Fix via the link in the description and have a look at the fixture rotation planner yourself. So that doesn't look too bad. We'll get on to the more template goalkeeper picks, I suppose, when we take a look at my team. But we'll get into the defence of the algorithm side for now. And Cancelo, White and Thiago Silva lining up in the back line for the starters. But we have got some notable mentions on the bench down below, which I am just going to reveal the rest of now. And Trippier and Castagna are the other 2 defensive picks that make it into this side. So very nice looking back 5 as a whole. There is one major pick that surprises me, and I'm sure you guys know that Thiago Silva is one that does bamboozle me quite a lot. I can't see the justification for going for Thiago Silva when Reece James is well and fit. The only positive with Thiago Silva over James, in my opinion, is the fact that James is more rotation prone, and that's probably why I'm not going to go for him in my own team right from the start anyways, just because of that little bit of an added risk that you get with Reece James and the Potter lottery that we've seen from him since his time at Chelsea. But an expected FPL points total per 90 of Reece James, 5.53 so far this season to Thiago Silva's 3.91. So you can see just how different they are in terms of output. James is a much better FPL asset in my opinion, and I think he's worth the risk. Back in full training now, I would definitely be going for him over going for Thiago Silva in my side, but he seems to be one, the Brazilian, that the computer tends to favour. The rest of the defence though, I like a lot more. Ben White looks like a good option to go for 4.7 million. Gabriel would be my pick of the Arsenal defenders if you've got the cash to go for. He's 0.5 million more at 5.2 million, but his expected FPL points per 90 is more superior to Ben White's since Game Week 10. Saliba's another one you could go for, but the fact that he's more expensive than Gabriel, I would just go for the Brazilian centre-back if I had the pick of the Arsenal defenders. But White looks like a nice option if you're looking to save that 0.5 million, and you might not be starting the Arsenal defensive asset you're picking every single week anyway. And why would you, with all these great fixtures that you've got and a good solid back 5 that you can get for relatively cheap in FPL at the moment? Cancelo looks like the most nailed Manchester City defender. We've been saying that all season. He's a bonus points magnet. I don't see any reason to not have him in your side. You could maybe go for Kyle Walker, but with the rotation issues at centre-back, I don't think there's many other options, and I don't think there's a better pick to go for than Cancelo from the Man City defence. Trippier, another one on the bench who is a bonus points magnet. No double game week for Newcastle. They haven't got the easiest set of fixtures either, but it's easy to forget just the form that Trippier was in before the World Cup, and I'm sure he'll be regaining that form. And Newcastle look like a very formidable side this season. I don't see any reason to take him out of your side when I'm assuming a lot of people will have had him in for a decent chunk of time and will have a substantial amount of value built up in the Englishman. Castagne's another one. Leicester not having the easiest set of fixtures, but did look very defensively solid throughout the last few games before the World Cup break. I think he looks like a great option as well. As I said, not the best fixtures in the world, but a very, very nice pick as well. So yeah, that rounds off the defence. I just don't think Thiago Silva is it at all. Maybe you guys disagree. Let me know down below in the comments if you think there's a different defensive pick that should be in here. But we'll get on to my defence in just a second anyway. We've got to deal with the rest of this algorithm team first. In the midfield, we've got Almiron, Mount, De Bruyne, and then maybe the slightly surprising pick of this bunch is James Maddison, who didn't play a minute in the World Cup, but looked very good before the break for Leicester. They've got the attacking fixture difficulty ranked 13th from game week 17 to 23, so still in the bottom half of the attacking fixture difficulty rankings, which you can check over at the fixture analyzer on the Fantasy Football Fix website. They don't have any double game weeks as well, which is another thing that might be putting me off over the likes of, say, a Mason Mount, who's also in this side. You could go for him and get that double game week in. Two very nice fixtures before that double game week for Chelsea as well. We've got Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest in the two before their game week 19 double game week. So yeah, I think there are better options than James Maddison personally, but still going to be a very nice option and one that not everyone's going to have in their teams. But Almiron, I think, is going to be one that everyone's got in their teams. At 5.8 million, he seems to be having the season of his absolute life. He's not been at the World Cup, so there's not going to be any fatigue built up through that. He's been doing pretty well in the games they've had off-season since then. Almiron, I don't see any reason why he won't come back into the form he left off in. I mentioned Newcastle not having the best set of fixtures, but just the fact that they're challenging for the Champions League, they really are looking like a different team this season. And I can see Almiron still being a fundamental part of that as we move through future game weeks. And at that kind of price, you can afford to bench him too, which is why I'd see him in pretty much every side that I would put together in FPL. And then finally, Kevin De Bruyne. And the main debate going to be around this Kevin De Bruyne versus Mohamed Salah and Kevin De Bruyne, I think, is one that I will wait on, and I'm going to have Mohamed Salah in my side, as you'll see in a second. Wait for those few game weeks, and then bring in De Bruyne for the doubles, because Man City will have two double game weeks in Game Week 20 and Game Week 23 as well. It looks more than likely. And then finally, up front, we've got Mitrovic, Erling Haaland, obviously, and then Ivan Toney. Erling Haaland's the obvious one. I don't even need to mention why you should have him in your side. Everyone's going to. He's going to be the prime captaincy option for the foreseeable future too. Mitrovic, another one I'm going to see in pretty much every team, I think. They've got the double game week in Game Week 19. He played very well at the World Cup. He was playing pretty well before that. He did seem to turn into a little bit of a troll for the few game weeks leading up to Game Week 16. And then Ivan Toney, which is a little bit of a cagey one with this betting situation that we've got hanging over him. Perhaps not the one I would go for, but Tottenham could be without some key players in Game Week 17, given how far some of them got and reached the World Cup final. So you never know. Toney could come back into that form. He could not get banned at all. He could end up with a suspension, though, which is something to definitely keep an eye on and some key news to be updated on with the FPL world going into Game Week 17, whether Ivan Toney is going to pick up a suspension from the FA. But moving into my team then, we'll have a look at how my team is actually changed, and we're just going to reveal the whole bunch here, and this is my side. Kepa Arrizabalaga in goal. Then we've stuck with Cancelo. We've also gone with Dalot, Trippier, Ben White, who stayed in my team, and Bueno, but I would probably have Patterson as my backup defender if you can afford it at that 0.1 million extra anyway. In midfield, I've gone for a little bit of a differential pick with Kulusevski in there, Marcus Rashford, Salah and Almiron, Erling Haaland and Mitrovic I've obviously kept, and then I've gone with Darwin. So this team, I do prefer it. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments, but I've gone with two Man United assets. They've got some nice fixtures coming up. Dalot was playing very well going into the break. Another bonus points magnet between those two I mentioned earlier in Cancelo and Trippier in my starting 11. Kepa Arrizabalaga is yet to be confirmed fully fit, but it's looking positive. The news is looking good. Chelsea were a shambolic defence going into game week 16. There's no other way to put it, really. I'm just banking on the fact they will improve, and those fixtures should hopefully breed some good defensive form, and Potter can get his side actually looking more defensively sound. In at midfield, Kulusevski is one that I would really like to have in my team, and that's why I've gone with him. He's averaging a return like every 92, 93 minutes, I think it is. So a fantastic, fantastic asset and good coverage for the Spurs attack if you can't quite squeeze Kane into your side, which is what I haven't been able to do. I've got Salah in there, who I mentioned. I might well move to Kevin De Bruyne in a few game weeks' time. Kept Almiron and then gone with Marcus Rashford. Now, I would like to have Bruno Fernandes. He'll be back on penalties now that Cristiano Ronaldo has departed. But if Martial does his typical thing and gets injured within one game week, then Marcus Rashford could be the man moving up front for Manchester United. And that's something I'm taking a little bit more of a gamble on, because I don't quite favour Marcus Rashford perhaps as much as some people when we're playing teams that might be going up against a bit of a low block for Manchester United. And then finally, up front, I've gone with Darwin Núñez. I'm aware Liverpool don't have a double game week, but with Luis Diaz and Diogo Jota out for the foreseeable future, he's going to be starting up front and he's going to be heavily relied upon for output in that Liverpool attacking line. So yeah, I've gone with him, stuck with Andreas on the bench as well as my fifth midfielder, because I might not have the squad value that some of you guys out there do, but most of you hopefully should be able to afford this draft is what I'm hoping, if you would like to go with it. So now is that time. Let me know down below in the comments, whose draft do you prefer, mine or the algorithms? Whose do you think would come out on top, and whose would you go with if you had to pick one of them to start with in game week 17? Thank you very much for tuning in to the return of Eddie versus the Algo. We'll be back for game week 17 as a standalone game week in just a few days. So make sure to subscribe for that if you are new around here and watching for the first time. But I will leave you. Thank you for watching once more, and welcome back to the content on the Fantasy Football Fix channel. I'll see you guys very soon. Goodbye.